God. No one speaks to each other. It's fucking so weird. I was just walking up here and there's a woman behind me, like a few of them. They were far behind me, but I guess they saw us smoking, so they had to do the whole fake cop thing, and it's like, alright, I get it. I mean, there's no way it's even getting to them. The secondhand smoke that doesn't do anything, even though, they told you it does. Fucking spoiler alert, first-hand smoke doesn't do anything. But that's a rabbit hole you kind of have to go down yourself. Because even if I explained it to the best of my ability, it would just be like, it would sound like I was a lunatic. And it's just a cope because you like to smoke, so it's like whatever, I sent you a commenter about going down to Chinatown. I haven't been down there in a long time. Like a long time, and I used to go there all the time. It's kind of weird. I just sort of, I don't know, just haven't gone. But I was going to go today, but Friday's payday for me. So, and I want to do some shopping down there because they have a lot of great places to buy stuff. Like a lot of there's a cool jewelry place, some clothing places. Some of these thrift shops sell like collectibles, toys, stupid shit I buy. So I'm going to go Friday. The best time to go is nighttime. But I don't know about going alone at night. I mean, like, around midnight is the time to go. That's when spirit activity is at its highest. Actually, the real best time would be 3 a.m., the witching hour. I had a friend that, I have a couple friends who used to live there. But one of them in particular, I'd just go down, like, stay at his place, and we'd go out at that time, at like 3 a.m. And around that time, that's when we had the trouble with all the demon stuff. That's how it started right there. That's how all this shit started. Like with me, like talking about esoteric subjects and occultism and all this stuff. It all started there, man. That was the beginning of everything. And like I got told the story quite a few times, and not the details or exactly what happened, but prior to that, I was basically agnostic. Not quite atheist, although I did have the atheism hat, and I still wear it occasionally. I just didn't, I wasn't a believer, I guess. And the funny thing is I'd been, as a hobby, researching occultism and demonology and all that stuff for many years. Well, not so much demonology, that was kind of a later thing. But just basic surface level, like, occult stuff. And I knew all about the satanic worship stuff and the sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. I'd read all about, learned about. And still, I wasn't sold on the idea of a God, which was weird. Because I knew these people were doing this thing to get their powers, to do, the shit they wanted to do. And they had people they would worship and, the whole Baal thing, Moloch, all that kind of stuff. So I knew that had to be something to it. Had to be something real going on with that, Otherwise, why would all these like very powerful people with money and influence be spending so much time doing this? It's like a big part of their lives. Those Hillary Clinton emails that were leaked years ago, the thing that kicked off the whole Pizzagate thing, whatever people think of that, if you read those emails, though, there's a lot of occult stuff in there, just in between, like, talking to each other. Hilldog herself talks about how she was going to sacrifice a chicken in the back in her backyard. They mentioned Moloch. They mentioned all kinds of weird stuff. But like kind of like in passing as a oh by the way type of thing. What it showed is that it was just part of their life. You know, what they did. It was like an everyday part of their existence. As well as a lot of other damning things. The thing with the Pizzagate thing is, I've been all over that since it first started. But people just hear it, and they're like, you know, it conjures up images of like Q people, or like they start thinking, it's the fucking Trump spell, man. That Trump spell. Whoa, did that really affect people? But yeah, so people kind of dismiss it like out of hand without even looking at it. And all you have to do is really read a couple of those, I mean, and just see the conversation and what they're talking about and what they mention, you know. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. But no one really gets that far. No one actually looks at the stuff. You know, most of the people that would be like, you know, Pizzagate, Trump, like that's tied to it, of course, in people's minds. They never even read any of them. They never read any of those emails. But, you know, whatever. So I knew that there must be some kind of thing there. You know, otherwise they wouldn't be wasting their time spending so much of their lives revolving around the situation. And yet, I just didn't have it in my mind that there was a God, you know. I got turned off to religion. When I was really young, I was into it. Like single digits, I was into it. Then, I guess just experiences, you know, change the way you feel about stuff sometimes. I remember going to church and I was being kind of freaked out by the whole thing. Like it was so bloody and there was so much like, you know, gore with the crucifixion and all that stuff. It just seemed, it was weird. It was like a little bit of a gore fetishist type thing happening. And it just turned me off from that. And I never really had a reason to step back into that world until Chinatown in 2017. A friend of mine was being controlled by demonic entities. Like walking him to his ATM type of thing. So I came into that. And that's how I got involved with it all. And it wasn't like immediately like, oh, wow, these are demons. You think of anything first. You know, it was only when I kind of exhausted all the other options as to what could possibly be happening. And even then, I was more like, well, these people are kind of warlocks, or they're some kind of witches, or that's what I thought. Because what would happen is we'd be having we'd have a run-in with a vacant person that had entities in them, and I'd be blah 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 blah. What was that? That was a fucking train wreck. I didn't know it at the time, right? So I was like, what are these guys doing? Are they like having a meeting at night and passing around a script? Because they were all saying the same shit. Like it was a script. And one conversation that you'd have with one would continue with another. That always use the same terminology, saying the same things over and over. And all I could think of was like, you know, when they put cops out for the day, they have those meetings like, all right, everybody, today we want to do this and that. I don't know if cops really do that, but they did on TV. So it's like, I thought it was like that kind of thing. I'm like, is there some kind of night homeless meeting where we're all getting together? And it was bizarre. I couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on. So after a while, I put everything together. Well, we both did, because we were both kind of confused. And he was being just like controlled by them. Everything would be normal, you know, be hanging around. He was always bringing these weird people up into his house, and I always asked him, like, do you know these guys? He's like, oh, yeah, he's cool. And then later, like, I'd kind of get it out of him that, well, I saw he hangs around down here. He didn't really know the people, right? And like we'd be hanging out, and these weirdos would come in. And he'd come over and he'd be like, "Oh man, I have to take off soon. I'm going down to some whatever, some weird place that he wouldn't normally go to." And I'm like, "All right, cool, man." I think one time he told me he's going to get scrap metal, and I'm like, "All right, that's I'll jet out then." He's like, "All right, man, I'll talk to you soon." So their whole thing was separating, getting me out of there. As we started to piece this whole thing together, and I subsequently started spending more time down there as all this stuff was going on, which my wife wasn't really psyched about. She didn't really understand, and I wasn't telling her what was happening, It became a case of different people would just come up to us in the street and try to get him away from me, or try to get me away from him. And it was fucking weird. It was weird, man. Like, they come up to us and they start talking and like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like they know him. "We need you to do this and that. And hey, can you come with?" And if I said anything, they'd be like, "You're a pig. You're a pig. You get out of here. You go. You take off." And I'm like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Like literally like that. It was weird. I just chalked it up to drugs at first. Like what, some weirdo he knows for whatever reason. And it got like that once I started spending more time down there. It got more like people just coming up to us in the street and trying to get him to leave and go somewhere else. The one day I think I finally put it together is the stuff they would say to him when they'd come up to us. We're out in front of a store near a parking garage, and this guy who was just kind of sitting there zonked out, right? He looked like he was just staring at nothing. I think we said something about him, like, "Oh, look at that guy over there." He stands up and he just comes over walking to us, and he looks at my friend and he was like, You're a great actor. I love you in all your movies. You're my favorite actor." All this other bizarre stuff about how he's in movies. And whenever I'd say something, he'd go over at me like, no, pig. They're fascinated with pigs. So, so I'm like, let's get out of here, So we start walking away, and the guys starts following us from behind, going, "No, you have to. You don't understand. I love you. I love your movie." And my friend's like, "I'm gonna throw this guy in the canal." And for whatever reason, I was just like, "No, don't. That's not him. That's not his fault. He's got something in him." And that's exactly what was going on. I don't know where that came from, that concept. It could fall under the discovered information column that I talk about sometimes. People that have said they get messages from God or messages from source. I do too, right? Because I don't know what else it is or where it could come from. Not in this particular case, but a lot of other stuff I've kind of just learned about by having it in me. And that's the thing, like, you have all the stuff in you. All the answers, all the questions are written like code in your DNA. It's just remembering. It's bringing it to the surface. So that's what I call found information. It's not something you're learning. It's just something one day you realize you have inside you, And then, like, I'll be in conversations, and he was going through the same thing at the same time I was. Like, back and forth would be exchanging information about stuff. Like, and then this happened, and then I thought this. He's like, "Yeah, me too." So we're going through this whole thing, and it was like he'd be talking to me about something, and then all of a sudden he'd just go into this other long thing about it, like an explanation or a some deeper understanding. And I'd be like, "Wow, that's cool." And he goes, "I don't know where I got that from." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm not lying. I didn't make it up. I just..." And that's exactly how it works. Like, sometimes when you're in conversation, someone could ask you something. You start talking, right? And then all of a sudden, you're not talking. It's not you who's saying it anymore. It's you saying it, but you're just relaying something that you have inside you, or that you know about, or that you got some kind of message about. I believe from source, And I remember when it started happening to me, I'm like, why am I lying? Why am I making this up? Like, what am I doing? Why am I saying this? And then after looking at it, I wasn't lying in these particular cases. It turned out to be factual shit, that I just somehow knew. And this still happens with varying degrees of intensity and speed. I go through phases where, and I call it being plugged in, where when you're plugged in, or what I call plugged in, you'll get all these synchronicities and everything lines up. It looks like a white woman. No, it's not a white woman. At least she's not obese though. She's pretty. So yeah, that shit was happening to me. And these guys that had the entities going on, it felt like they had a similar thing going, except the other side of it. Really bizarre. This took years to parse through and break down. And the weird thing is, like, by the time I kind of figured out what I was dealing with, I stopped having interactions with them. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that my friend moved up to North Shore. I stopped hanging around down in Chinatown a lot. I had a couple run-ins here, but no speaking. As some of you may have seen, if you watch the channel, occasionally I'll find someone that has one in them. You can tell by the way they sound. It's a lot of like what people would traditionally call like tongues. It just sounds like a lot of babbling. And a lot of like that kind of stuff with Latin words tossed in. And I think what it is, what I've kind of theorized is that they're trying to get the bodies to work. And it isn't like they can't speak, because they can. They know languages. They probably can speak, I don't know how many they can speak. I know they speak Latin as well as English, right? So I think what they're trying to do is figure out how the body works that they're in, because it's like they're struggling. It's almost like they're trying to get the body to work. They do the same thing with movement too. Like I told a story once about how I saw one in front of my house, and they went and spooked my wife after that, which I was not happy about, and kind of freaked me out for a while, because I'm like, I can't have these things talking to her. And it was this woman in high heels, but it looked like she never wore high heels before. She's like kind of stumbling in them. She wasn't drunk, and I knew when she walked by me. This is in front of my house. She didn't say anything to me, but she was mumbling demon stuff, like. And I don't know if she was there specifically because I was. It didn't feel like that. It felt like I just happened to catch her walking by. And then when my wife got back from where she was walking from, she'd run into her. And she said, yeah, this real creepy lady that was talking all strange was telling me to be careful out here because, I might get snatched. She said this to her, So I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I don't know if it even knew that was someone connected to me, or I don't know if it even knew who I was. But at first I was really upset. I'm like, I can't have them talking to her too, But I think it was just something that just happened by chance, as this stuff does, because these things are fucking everywhere. They're everywhere. I've talked about it a lot with Roger and KC. I guess I can't talk about it enough, because that's a great resource. What he does is he takes these photographs of areas, and he does some photo, whatever you call it. He turns up the gain in the photos and the contrast. I don't know exactly how his method of doing it, But what happens is you'll see like these translucent shapes appear all over the scene, and those are the fucking things. You know, they can be picked up on camera. Sometimes on video picks them up a lot better. You can see them a lot better on video. But photographs, yeah, I guess it varies. Like, he had some stuff with Queen Elizabeth, and every time she would do like a speech to the country, like whatever, her holiday shit or whatever, there'd be a ton of them all around her. One creepy one he was showing was a Christmas card that was sent out by the I Love Lucy cast, and the Christmas tree was a fucking monster. It was just like a legit, like, yeah, it's crazy. So these things are here. You know, some guy's freaking out. Losing his mind. Is that a? See, now I'm thinking, is that a demon? You gotta listen to what they're saying, you know. I don't want to stare at him, but I want to hear what he's saying. I think he was yelling at someone that was walking by.
That's a pretty cool.
I saw the cops and he just shut up. Usually that's not a demonic entity. Doesn't care about police. But anyway, where the fuck was that before you get sidetracked by that? Yeah, well, just to wrap it up, this has gone on long as it is. Chinatown, I'll be doing that Friday. I'm going to go during the day, obviously. Just like when they travel to the moon to get pictures there. They go during the day. That's why it's not glowing. But yeah, if there's any other places, like anyone that used to live here or that watch the channel, and want to see an area that they haven't seen, I could always go check it out, you know. Just let me know. Alright, I'm going to wind my way back to the Sanctum Sanctorium. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.